Hello, I'm Alex Kitto from the Southmead Development Trust. Thank you very much for coming and listening to our statements today. We wanted to draw your attention to the communities outside of BS1, the centre of Bristol. The social enterprise zone, etc. is great, but please don't forget the communities on the outskirts. We're thinking of Southmead, Henbury, Brentry, Lawrence, Weston, Shirehampton, in the south, Hengrove, Knoll, Whitchurch, etc. etc. Please do what you can to create jobs in those areas and to create employability skills for the residents of those areas. Thank you.
In view of the Bristol Pound just having launched, the question that we want to ask is that where profits are arising from commissioning processes and tendering processes and all sorts of services within the city, how will the mayoral candidates make sure that those profits, where possible, are kept or redistributed within our city and the surrounding area, rather than leaving the city altogether? And we obviously think that one of the routes that we would suggest for that would be to involve the voluntary and community sector in those processes where possible, because we think that we are much better at keeping our pounds in our city.
Our statement on table 8 clearly is we recognise for the VCS to thrive and deliver effective services, they need appropriate premises. We would urge the Mayor to review the Council's property asset policy.
We were talking about the way in which the voluntary sector is almost forced to work in competition at the moment with the way that contracts come up for tender. So we would urge the candidates to support collaboration amongst voluntary sector organisations rather than encouraging competition.
We talked on this table about the label of third sector for the kind of work that we're doing, and we would like to challenge that vociferously, the idea that we're a third sector given the range of professionalism that we cover. We also noted a range of different understandings of the voluntary sector, voluntary and community sector in the films. What we would urge the Mayor to do is to develop a clear understanding of the incredible contribution and professionalism of this sector, and then to share that and shift the culture and attitude towards the voluntary sector in statutory bodies. Thank you.
We have 3 things.
You're cheating. I might have to cut you off.
I know, but they're all really good. I'll do it very briefly, and I'll be punchy, don't you worry. Okay, we would like a greater degree of investment for early intervention and prevention services, so help along the life course. That there's a need to champion volunteering, particularly for young people, voice and influence and decision making. Ethical contracting as well, so think about how you're going to contract the voluntary and community sector, so again you don't develop competition. And also, how are you going to support the voluntary sector as it braces itself for the impact of the welfare reforms? And I know I've said enough now, so I will pass it on.
We've got 2 points. The first one is about the commissioning and procurement processes adopted by the City Council. We think these are going to have a fundamental impact on the shape of the voluntary sector, and it's a bit inadvertent, I think, the consequence of this, because we don't feel there's a political sign-up to a vision for what they want the voluntary sector to look like. And these commissioning processes, by eliminating the opportunities for many small and medium-sized organisations to compete, is going to reshape the city in a way that people aren't really, and politically isn't really signed up for. So there's a huge concern about that, and that needs to be reviewed, and there needs to be some sort of political transparency about the impact of these commissioning and procurement processes on the voluntary sector. That's the first point. The second point is about investment in the voluntary sector. The result of recession will be that there'll be many, many more people in need, and the voluntary sector is very good at reaching out to people who wouldn't actually have any contact with statutory services. So this is a time to put together the fact that the voluntary sector is a lot better value for money. This is a time for greater investment in the voluntary sector during this period of recession, rather than the opposite, in order to reach the people and to help people to survive the recession and come out, hopefully when the recession's over, to take up opportunities of growth in the economy.
My first statement was to address inequality in society by narrowing that poor-rich divide as a priority, so look, through economic regeneration, possibly increasing minimum wage, and actually going out to the poorest communities so there's actually more services available there. Our second point was, would like there to be political accountability between the mayor and the local councils. We have concerns about the mayor's manifestos and local manifestos being at odds, and how that's going to get resolved.
Support the development of measures which quantify social value and then place it firmly in the city's accounts. In other words, opening the way to create social value as a mandatory element of commissioning, potentially.
Great.
The second item is to advocate strongly for longer-term financial commitment. So it's the compact plus a bit, maybe with 5-year horizons extended subject to an annual or biennial review.
Thank you, Mike.
A key priority for the third sector is a strong, courageous, independent and responsive mayor, prepared to support the great diversity of the voluntary and community sector, with sustainable funding for the full breadth of VCS organisations, large and small, to include all the strands of the equality agenda and promote respect, reduce barriers and eliminate intolerance in the City of Bristol.